I'm here to share with you things that I've learned about the podcast interviewing, conversation having process. This is not a comprehensive thing, and I want to point out these notes are chicken scratch. The reason that I even say that, because how unprofessional to mention your notes and the state of them. But the connection here of why I'm even bringing it up is that this whole conversation interview having thing is not a linear process. It's not like there's these steps to follow. There's no cheat sheet. This is really an intuitive, what's making you curious? Where do you feel is the next place to go on? But I'm getting ahead of myself. But first, before we get into it, if you're feeling, insecure, if you're feeling nervous and just, it's like that feeling of I need to call someone on the phone, and it's like your heart's in your throat, and it's like, I don't want to do that, but you want to do it, but you don't want to do it. Just breathe. I'm not going to lead you in a guided meditation right now, but I just want you to put the feelings that you have about fear, about being afraid of not doing a good job, whatever, just put that to the side and try to take in some of these tips and take what resonates and leave what doesn't, because you are going to be a different interviewer / conversation haver than me. You've got your special sauce, your passions, and that's what we want to tap into. A very, 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 very important thing to have is a notebook and a working pen. Make sure the pen works before, trust me. Be ready to jot down anything that grabs you. And if you're not in the habit of doing this, I would recommend listening to some other podcasts. And if there's a thread that somebody talks about that the podcast interviewer just leaves dangling, and you're like, I would have wanted to know more about that. I wanted to dive into that. Ask how they felt. Ask how it was. Ask how their family felt about it. Learn how to tap into your curiosity. Another reason that it's really good to take notes is that it's going to help you when you're writing the description or the show notes for your podcast. What I do is I take all the phrases that I wrote down and I kind of incorporate them and make them into full sentences in the description. It's very important in approaching the podcast itself and in that time that you let yourself be there in that moment. Don't edit in your head. Don't think, oh, this is a long pause, I'm going to have to cut that. Or, oh, this is not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to go back here. Am I going to have to edit this and move this part of the conversation over to this part so that it connects better? Don't do that. Just be in that moment. Let yourself fully be there. Don't think about anything else you need to do. Don't think about how you look. Focus on them. Focus on feeling what they're saying. Focus on just, hanging on every word. That this is the most precious time and you care so deeply about what they're saying. They will feel that. And that will keep you from being someone that's just like, question 1, question 2, okay, question 3. That's boring. Sometimes when I'm recording a podcast, I have so many things bubbling around in my head, I don't know which way to go. I'm a little bit like, and then nothing comes out. So ask them, like, say, where would you like to take this story next? Like, give people a chance to say what's important to them and ask them if there's something more they'd like to add about something if they give a very short answer, which generally isn't a problem. A very important thing is to be willing to interrupt, and that is hard. It is so hard to interrupt people because it feels so rude, but if they're going a direction that is really not where you want to go, and really not towards the point of this, pull it back where you want it to go. They will appreciate that because they want the conversation to go well. A lot of people know of their tendencies to go off on tangents that they're excited about. But don't be afraid to say, hold on a second, can we go back to this? Especially if that's a question that is about going deeper. Going deeper. going beyond the surface. My friend Dan McPherson's talked about that a lot. Just like, sometimes it takes you ask someone, how are you? Good. How are you really? I'm tired. Oh, you're tired? What's making you tired? Oh, my kids. Oh, yeah. And what's keeping them up at night, It takes asking layers instead of just accepting that very first answer. And some really, really wonderful advice that I've received that I would love to impart is ask the question that you are embarrassed to ask. Because it's not about how you're perceived. It's about going to the deepest place you can. And if there's a question you're embarrassed to ask, it's probably a good one. And you can always say, if that's too personal, you don't have to answer. I just really feel compelled to ask this. Here's a good piece of advice for editing purposes. If you're asking a question or they're answering a question and there is an interruption and then you need to come back to what you were talking about, restart it. Ask the question again and let them re-answer the question again. It's going to make things so much easier to just pluck out what you don't need so that things can just go in smoothly. If someone coughs, restart it. Especially if you don't want to be hearing the cough kind of drag through the I thought that this thing was going to go better, Just restart the sentence. It's not too much work and it's worth it. I don't want to hear sniffs and coughs. I edit those things out. I leave the ums. I leave slight pauses because they're real. Something that I've learned, smile, make the guests feel welcome. Make them feel like it's okay whatever happens, that they're safe, that they will not be judged, that you're genuinely interested in them. Just exude kindness, exude warmth. Just be that love that you are, but put it even more out of you. Does that make any sense? I don't know. Let yourself just shine. So before you even start to record, just breathe a bit. Just let go of the stresses of the day. Let go of the stresses leading up to whatever. And just be excited to hear their story. Just be excited to connect with them. And obviously I don't mean the puppy excitement. I mean an inner just readiness, an inner just let's do this. In the conversation, in the recording, it is good to have some bullet points, some basic questions to go from, so you're not starting from absolutely nowhere. And it's up to you to decide how structured you want your conversation to be. If there are questions you are really interested in asking all of them, it would be good to have your guests prepped on that. I say that with a bit of a because I'm not the greatest at communicating with my guests. I'm really much more of a go with the flow person. But it's very important if you don't know the guest to make sure that they are on board with your style. If you are someone who really likes to get through your list of questions, it's very good to communicate that to them. If you're a go with the flow person, it's good to ask them if they're on board with that, if they would like to jump in, or if they'd like to chat a bit before you record to get a brief kind of discussion going about what you will talk about. That is really worth the investment of time. Then you can prep your questions and you can remember what it is that they definitely wanted to talk about so that you don't miss that. Like when we talked, say that we're recording right now, and I say, we talked earlier about your time in Ghana and how much that meant to you. Would you share? I'd love to have you share some of those experiences now. So you are pulling things back and you're not missing the important things. Thank you for being here. I hope you feel a little bit more encouraged and inspired in your podcasting process. Let me know. how it's going. I seriously want to know. Send me a message on the Facebooks or on the Grams, Instagrams. I don't know why I said Grams. I was trying to be cool, but I think it backfired. If there's something specific that you're struggling with that I haven't talked about, let me know, and I'll see how I can help you in either a video on that or just doing a one-on-one chat, because I want to support you. Bye! You're awesome. You be awesome. Make that podcast. Do it. Make the podcast. Do it. I'll be a guest. I'll be someone you can chat with and practice on. I'd be happy to. Even if you don't end up recording it, I would be happy to talk with you and give you that chance to ask questions and grow in that process. Okay, that's all. Bye! Hey! I am so happy with how this looks behind me. It's so pretty. Okay.